So as you start to settle in, make yourself comfortable. Arrange the physical body in any placement that feels good. There might be a full breath in the nose, and then a big sigh out the mouth, letting the effort of the day go. Today's yin class is inspired by Gabrielle Harris from her book Language of Yin. There's a concept in yoga, santosha. It's contentment is what it loosely translates to. Complete acceptance. Santosha is the state of underlying contentment with what life is offering you. How often do we think to ourselves, I will be happier when, or I will be happier if? Maybe it shows up, if I do yin, I'll be more flexible. If I meditate, I'll be more at ease. Or if I am contented, people will love me. We can waste a lot of energy trying to fulfill the conditions that we place on our life. We try to push away the things that we don't want to attract the things we do. Or you get frustrated when we lose the things we love. Or we never get those things that we pursue. The set of conditions becomes a moving target. But yoga is not about meeting a set of conditions so you can find happiness. Instead, it's a practice of meeting all parts of yourself with sweetness and love. Your shortcomings, your stiff body, your aching heart, those extra pounds, the mood that swept through your house, your breakups, your sickness, your boredom, your loneliness, your impatience. It's about meeting confusion, doubts, and fears with love, with sweetness, compassion. Santosha is an inside job that asks us to ride the waves of life as it is being presented, and to look for the sweet spot within that radiates satisfaction regardless of your life's conditions. Oh. Santosha is an inside job that asks us to ride the waves of our life as it is being presented, and to look for the sweet spot within that radiates satisfaction regardless of the conditions. I don't know about you, but that's a lot easier to say than to practice. With the next few rounds of breath, just pondering Santosha in your life. How does it show up? When does it show up? What does it feel like or look like when it shows up? If you're lying on your back, make your way to one side or the other, doesn't matter which. We'll meet one another on our side, maybe stacking the legs. And then look around and just notice where your bolster is. Be aware of it. And then shift your awareness again to the body. Take the top hand and press it down into the floor in front of you. Roll a little bit more. And then start to lift the torso up from the mat. We'll gather the bolster. Kind of roll it towards you. I'm going to slide the bolster along the waist. And that's going to shift depending on the length of your torso. It might be closer to the hip. It might be where the rib cage is. And then just rest the side of the body down over the bolster. You can take that bottom arm out long, make a pillow for the head. Some people like to bend the elbow and catch the head in their palm. It's our side lying banana asana. If you feel pretty steady, you're welcome to lengthen the legs out. We want ease within the shape. And at the same time, we want to balance that with the effort of the body weight resting against the bolster. Settle into a bit of stillness when you arrive into that place. And as you become aware of the breath, maybe on the inhale, you draw in peace. On the exhale, you breathe out contentment or santosha. You might draw in kindness and then let go of expectation. Or draw in acceptance and let go of, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy if. And then notice what happens to the mind, to the emotion, the heart. As you just linger here in stillness and quiet. With an invitation to just give a bit of compassion to whatever shows up. Knowing that whatever shows up doesn't define you. Not the only part of you. It's just the part that's bubbling up to the awareness in this moment. And shift awareness to the arm that's in top, the one that's touching against the air, the sky, not the one against the bolster that you've got pinned down. Start to stretch that hand, that arm away from the head. Maybe even flip the palm up to the ceiling. And start to lift the arm, taking it up to the ceiling. You might reach that arm overhead, lengthening through that side of the body. And then take the arm down, or rainbow it across the sky, bringing it back toward that top leg, that top hip. We'll take that a few more times. Maybe inhaling the arm up and overhead. Exhaling the arm down toward the body. And the next time that arm reaches overhead, no hurry. We're going to think about making a circle with the arm. Maybe the arm comes forward in front of the chest, goes down toward the legs, slide it around behind any amount, returning up over the head. And take that full circle. And then 2 circles in the opposite direction. And then the next time the arm comes overhead, pause, slowly. If you straighten the legs, add a little bend into the knees. We'll take the hand prints down to the mat. Start to roll onto the chest. Let the hands support you. And then press into the hands. Take the knees underneath the hips, arriving into tabletop. Keep the bolster where it is and just let the hips sway side to side. As the hips move in one direction, peek over the opposite shoulder, see if you can find your feet, and then take that one more time, other side. As you come back through center, slide the bolster closer to the knees. We'll stretch the body out, belly down over the bolster. You might like it on the thighs. You might like it right at the pelvis. I want you to shift the bolster around until you find this place where you're balanced over the bolster. Some people like it under the bum. Shift and adjust. Let the arms just be. However they show up, it might be a stacked hand, a little pillow for the head. I tend to tuck mine underneath my chest. And then settle into the stillness there. Invite the parts of the body that touch the bolster to soften, to sink into that support. We often store a lot of our emotions, especially regarding contentment, here in the hips. Being aware of that, notice what arises in the observation. And let that observation just shift right out the mind. Maybe naming it, letting it go. Inviting contentment into those spaces, those observations. If you're resting one cheek down to the mat, we're about halfway through. Lift the head, take the other cheek down. And soften again, surrender into that bolster, that support. Beginning to follow those 5 final rounds of breath here. Recognizing that you can stay here and linger for as long as you'd like. And you can always back out before I cue it at any point. But if you're moving with me and my voice, slide the hands underneath the shoulders. Feel the fingers spread into the mats. Start to lift the torso up from the mat. And then send the hips back. Move through table, stay in table, or find a quick child's pose if that calls to you. It'll be about 3 breaths, whichever variation you're choosing today. And then we'll all meet in tabletop. You might have to roll the bolster a little bit toward that short edge of the mat as we prepare for side lying banana asana. Setting the opposite hip down. Rolling the waist or the rib cage over the bolster. Making a pillow with the bottom arm or catching head and hand. And find a bit of ease here, depending on where you place the bolster. It might be too much pressure on the floating ribs. Know that it doesn't have to be in the same position as the other side. And then we settle into the stillness. We settle in to letting time pass over us, to bearing witness to what shows up. Inviting contentment into those musings, those thoughts, images, stories that arise. The mind is spinning in the longer holds, the longer spaces of quiet. Notice how you react to that and search out the contentment, accepting it just as it is. Not trying to add amendments. I'd be happy if, I'd be happy when. Rather noticing, maybe even finding a bit of contentment What a joy it is to have time to care for ourselves, to have a space to lay down a mat, to have support beneath the body. And shift awareness to that top arm. Start to float the arm up, reaching it away from the body, lifting it up to the sky, taking it up and overhead. And then coming back the same way, a rainbow across the sky. Hand descends down toward that top hip. Take a few more just like that. When you're ready to move that top arm into circles, we'll take two big circles with the arm in each direction. Noticing how the shoulder moves, the arm swirls. Perhaps sending really loving thoughts of kindness toward that arm and shoulder. And then as you finish up, hands going to come down to the bolster or the floor. Lean a little bit into that hand. Start to press the body upright. Use the arms to help lift you. And then roll the bolster toward the center of the mats. We'll turn around so that the back of the body faces the bolster. Let the long legs extend nice and long. They can widen, especially if you've got a little panza, a little belly or a chest. Let the body just fold over the legs. And take several rounds of breath here. You might notice heaviness through the shoulders. You might feel this curling in upon yourself. Notice what arises in that space. And slide the hands on the outer side of the legs. Press into the hands. Start to lift the torso up a bit. We've got that bolster behind us. I'm going to bend the knees. Use the hands to support. We'll set the bum on the bolster. You might just roll over the bolster and let the elbows come on the other side. Catch the body. We often do this with a block. And if you prefer that, you're welcome to take it. I want to feel the backs of the shoulder blades heavy on the mats. Maybe the back of the head. If the head doesn't reach, just slide a blanket or roll your mat up a couple of times to feel that. And then before we settle into stillness, start to lift the knees in toward the chest. I'm going to take one at a time. You might take the leg side to side. You're balancing that flat part of the hips against the bolster. Feeling the softness, the cushion as it wraps around the sides of the hips. And then as the legs come to stillness, several options. You can keep the legs drawn in toward the belly. You can set the feet down on the mat, or you could extend the legs. Take the variation that serves you in this moment. The leg arrangement is really personal. The intention here is space across the chest, feeling the support behind the heart, behind the mind, settling into that stillness, that space. And then returning to these words of wisdom, we can waste a lot of energy trying to fulfill the conditions we place on our life. We try by pushing away the things we don't want to attract. And then when we get what we want, we may lose it again. Or we may never get the things that we pursue. You see, the set of conditions becomes a moving target. Initially, we may feel content with attainment. And then apathy may fall over us as the things we sought so eagerly lose their shine. But yoga is not about meeting a set of conditions so that you can find happiness. Rather, it's a practice of meeting all parts of you with sweetness and with love. Life is a gift. We may not like all the comings and the goings, but they make up a life. They make up our life. Create the contentment, the happiness within your life. We'll follow 5 final rounds of breath here. Letting out whatever arises with love, with tenderness. And feet will find the floor again if you've shifted them, knees up to the sky. And let the knees windshield wiper side to side. And there's a couple of ways to come up off the bolster. You might roll over to one side and shove the bolster out of the way. You might lift the hips and roll the bolster down toward the heels. You might even start to wiggle your bum over the bolster, then the waist, bringing the bolster underneath the thoracic spine, that shoulder blade area. That's where we're going to end up meeting. Sometimes the bolster can be really fluffy and too much. We'll rest the shoulder blades over the bolster or a blanket or a block. Letting the arms rest on the side of the bolster closer to the head. I like a cactus arm here. Some people like T-length, T-shape in the arms. If your bolster is really high, you can stack your hands, make a little pillow to catch the back of your head. Or whatever arrangement you have into that open heart shape, find butterfly through the legs, soles of the feet together, knees open wide. And then slide the heels a comfortable distance from the bum. Let the knees and the outer legs be heavy toward the floor, toward the mat. Sometimes as you journey through life, you encounter moments of uncomfortableness. And this might be one of them. If it causes pain, not annoyance, or this desire to shift and wiggle, but sharp shooting sensation. And that feeling in the mind that says, oh, I'm not safe, I got to get out, then you come out. But if it's simply uncomfortableness, show up to it, sit with it. Oftentimes in life, those uncomfortable moments have a profound lesson to guide us through, a lesson which we're meant to learn. Imagine how much faster we'd learn the lesson if we showed up, if we searched out the santosha in that moment. We'll follow 5 final rounds of breath here. And then as your 5th breath escapes, wiggle the bottoms of the feet toward the floor, lifting the knees up toward the sky, maybe dragging your feet closer to the bum. Very mindfully roll one way or the other, releasing the hands, letting the hands help support us as we lift up. We'll come into any comfortable seated shape, sliding the bolster out of the way. If the knees are not too fussy today, you might come up into a tabletop shape and straddle the bolster, coming into a variation of saddle pose, letting the bum rest on the bolster. Oftentimes, if the knees complain, this is not comfortable. You can always take one foot to the ground and just try it halfway, a half saddle shape. We'll linger here for about 10 breaths in all. And then in those breaths, take one hand across the body, roll the chest toward that side. If you're on the bolster, you can reach back and grab the bolster, and then use the arms here to roll the rib cage around. Let the head shift side to side. Like you're shaking no. And then the next time the gaze comes toward the knees, unravel from the twist. Take that twist over to the other side. If you're doing half saddle, shift the legs before you twist. And let the head roll side to side. And then the next time gaze comes forward, pause and unravel from the twist. Rest the backs of the hands on the legs on the lap. Take a few more breaths here. Open palms, accepting the peace, the joy, the santosha, the contentment in the moment. And then releasing from your seated shape, saddle pose. It's kind of nice to just walk hands forward, lift up the hips. Take one leg, slide it over the bolster. You can wiggle that bolster out of the way. And then move through a few rounds of cat and cow. Arching through the spine. Finding movement. Inviting the spine to articulate. Invite any organic movement in that calls to you. This will be our last little round of movement before Shavasana. If you want an extra moment or two in Shavasana, feel free to gather up your props and make your way there. As you choose that final resting pose, bring in ease and comfort. The body might have become chilly, so feel free to slide a blanket over yourself. I'm gonna put my socks back on. Add any wiggle or shift or adjustment to bring more comfort and ease in. Take 2 or 3 breaths where you inhale through the nose and exhale out the mouth. There might be an audible sigh as you let go of any lingering tension in your body. Invite the space across the forehead to release, to soften any furrows there. Eyes become heavy in the sockets. Maybe bathing the eyes in a bit of darkness by lowering the lids. And release the muscles along the cheek, along the jaw. You might find the tip of the tongue resting peacefully on the roof of the mouth, or a slight parting of the lips. Relax the muscles along the throat, across the shoulders, down the length of the arms. Releasing the tips of the fingers toward the floor. Shavasana is this space in between active and alert and asleep. Linger there. Santosha is an inside job that asks us to ride the waves of our life as it is being presented, and to look for the sweet spot within that radiates satisfaction regardless of our life's conditions. Life is a gift. We may not like all the comings and going. They make up a life, make up our life. Take a moment where you are and rest one hand over the heart, and then the other hand stacks on top. Remembering that Santosha is complete acceptance. And then release the hands, find a little movement, maybe circling up the wrists, preparing to come up and out of that final resting pose of your choice. You might roll over to one side or the other when you're ready. We'll meet in any comfortable seated shape. Feel free to join me, circling arms up and overhead, then sliding the hands down the midline, pausing hands at the heart or returning hands to the lap. A soft tuck of the chin, a gesture of gratitude, and for the practice of contentment. From my heart to each of yours, namaste.